Hello, and welcome to the second interview in a series where I talk to people whose work assists to raise the consciousness of humanity, talking about their work and their lives. In this interview, I talk with Ganga. She's a meditation teacher, and I've also heard her referred to as a Zen Master. She travels the world sharing awareness intensives called Who Is In and Satori. She's also the founder of the Awareness Academy. In this interview, we will specifically be talking about Who Is In. With Who Is In, the ancient Zen technique of facing the wall in silence is combined with the modern technique of structured communication, facing a partner. Two people sit opposite each other in meditation position, eyes are in contact, and the koan or question, who is in or who am I, is asked to one by the other. The one that has been asked allows the koan to enter into themselves. Then they look inward, beginning a self-inquiry and communicating what they find to the other. It's a simple yet profound technique. This interview took place at Osho Afros, a meditation center in Greece where people from all over the world come together to meditate. I was lucky enough to be there last summer, taking part in a work as meditation program. Osho Afros had organized Ganga to offer a Who Is In specifically for the workers as a gift of thanks. This interview is a result of that. Thank you, Ganga. Thank you, Osho Afros. And I hope you enjoy the interview.
Now, there was a big boulder in the Tasayara Creek that Suzuki Roshi said he wanted for his rock garden. Every day, 4 or 5 of us went down to the creek during the silent work period and struggled to move the boulder by various devices and means. Each one of us was secure in the knowledge that somehow we were going to move that stone to his rock garden, which was quite a distance away. After a week, the rock had not budged, but no one was about to break the silence or give up. One day, Suzuki Roshi came down to the creek and struggled along with us. Some visitors called down from the bridge to ask what we were doing. Suzuki Roshi called up, "We don't know."
Hello, my name is Michelle Brady, and I'm here today with Ganga to speak with her about the work that she does in the world and a little bit about the person and the work. So welcome, Ganga. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm very excited and happy to be sitting in front of you and being able to record this interaction. So Ganga, I heard you referred to as a Zen master. Would you be comfortable with taking on that title?
No, I have no interest being a master or recognized as a master. I enjoy the work, and it has lots to do with Zen. And Zen for me it just stands for that everything is equal. So the height is, like if you have a Zen meal, for example, it's set up and everything is perfectly in order. Everything is lined up, aesthetically beautiful, and then you eat, and when you are finished eating, the dirty dishes, the so-called dirty dishes, they get arranged in the same beautiful way as the clean dishes, just to signify that it's whatever is it's a complete, and every part of it has the same value. It's not the dirty dishes, it's not something which is less valuable or less part of the whole thing. than the clean dishes. And so in the work, we all are at times masters and students at the same time. And I certainly enjoy learning. I love learning. And I have nothing against to share this, what I'm learning. But from my side, there is no interest.
Okay. Perhaps the title of a meditation teacher?
Yeah, more like, yeah. Yeah.
And because you've been sharing this work for 40 years or something, quite a long time, longer than 40 years. Yes. The first time that I saw you, I had the inclination to bow in some way to you, which was interesting. And I looked around at everybody else, and I felt a little annoyed. I felt like yelling, "Hey, Ganga deserves a little more respect, people," because we were just interacting with you like we do each other, and I felt that wasn't good enough. So that was interesting to see.
And I enjoy that very much, because what I discovered, what is most important is that human connection. As humans, we are all the same. There's not a higher human being and a lower human being in us. The humanness in us is the same in everybody. And then, yes, we have different skills, we have different experiences, different conditioning. So the further we go into that, the diversity is huge. But deep in the inner, we are all the same. We are all life. We are all the same consciousness runs in us. Not that we all in equal way use it or in touch with that or even know that it's there. And this is actually what I see as my main work. I want people to at least get to know that they have that part inside. If then they choose to live it and to explore that and to have more of it in their life, that's up to them. But in normal education, there's no focus on that. It's all about skills and competing and acquiring data, knowledge, like history or math or whatever it is. But there is no schooling in the real human qualities, like how to connect, how to love, how to listen to somebody, how to speak up for oneself. There is, for some strange reason, no emphasis at all.
So this is your main work, basically.
Yes.
And I heard you refer to it as an enquiry, which I really liked. It's that looking within and dissecting, identifying the different.
Yeah, it's like for a few days, because like what the main structure I'm using is the awareness intensive.
Awareness intensive.
Yes, and the awareness, the name says it. It's like it's intense, and and it has to do with awareness. Yeah. So and it has the very basic human question, which applies to everybody, no matter what tradition, culture, age, which is who am I, or another version of the same, who is in.
Yeah. And I just spent the last week 2 hours a day with Ganga. It was the first time that I had experienced this practice, and I found it so profound, like so simple, but yeah, it was really amazing. I've learnt so much this week with you. It's really great. And this morning, having a couple of conversations with people, I was able to use some of the skills to communicate and interact in a way that was healthy for me, which was amazing. Yeah.
It is a very powerful technique, simple, as you say. And what I like about it, it's no matter how well you know yourself, no matter how long, how many times you have practiced it, it's always fresh, because it gives you total freedom to be with who you are in this very moment. So it's an open inquiry. It's not focused on a particular subject. It's not about finding an answer. It's not about solving problems, but to learn the art to be with oneself, like to become really intimate with oneself, and to love oneself, which, like every intimacy, is not, there's a lot of acceptance to whatever is. So that's, one could use that as a definition of intimacy, that if I'm intimate with myself, whatever is coming up is okay, can be there. Yeah, I might like it or not like it, but okay, it's mine, so I can welcome it, or I can say, I don't like that aspect of mine, but it will not go away from me not liking it or liking it. It will not become bigger or less. I just will suffer more if I don't accept it. So in this inquiry, it's and it's open-ended, like it's these type of questions. They're also called koans, to make clear that there is no question, but it's used by Zen masters as a device to help to bring the disciple out of a mind space into a no mind space at the very end, which means one can become the answer. I cannot say who I am, but I can have the direct experience of it. And this direct experience, when it happens, is life transforming. One is never the same again once this connection has been made. We can forget it and come back, so the mental recognition of it changes. But the experience as such, once touched, becomes like the pivot of one's life. And when connected, when our actions are connected, or feelings or thoughts, everything part of how I experience myself in the moment, if these are connected with this core point, the life is different. I have more freedom, I have more courage, I have more trust, I I'm more open, I can move into aloneness, I'm less needy, and where then this aloneness, when I really have the courage to go into it and I'm not afraid to be lonely, and then when I'm going through that layer of fear of loneliness, then I can come to a place of aloneness, which is then the paradox, which I don't know when I embark on the journey, is that I'm all one. I'm not isolated. I'm not then standing there lonely.
Mm.
No, then I'm connected with everything. And this is very enjoyable. And why not?
Yeah.
Then I can fall in love with the sky and the tree and people and myself and the ocean, and it's just a completely different life.
Mm-hmm. So my understanding is the sort of overall title of this work is Awareness Intensives, and then it's kind of broken into two parts of who is in and a satori, the who is in being shorter and the satori being longer. Is that correct? Yeah.
Like the who is in is like the first one. It's 3 days, and there's only the question, who am I, and who is in. And it's two purposes. First, for people to get familiar with the work, and it usually takes like 2.5 days till one really makes the first dive. So that's why it's 3 days. So to give that chance, it's not a guarantee that everybody has it, but this seems to be a cycle that for most people it takes that much time to connect. And it happens in silence, and it's intense. I mean, in these inquiry sessions, one is working with a partner in a particular way, and the whole focus is to go inside and to learn to be with oneself, to really open up, to express everything what is there, and then also get some input by listening to the partner. So these two of searching, the active position of searching, looking, inquiring, opening and communicating it, and the passive, you could call that the male aspect, and then the female, the receptive, the listening, to just being available without working on the koan, is very powerful. By the way, a great way for anybody in relationship to do, because that's what we usually don't do. We interfere, so it's like set times. Everybody has 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it's very structured.
And the partners are sitting in front of each other, aren't
they sit close in front of each other, and with every inquiry session there is a new partner, and there is no touching, there is no talking, no writing or anything. It's just to outside this inquiry, and it's to ensure that no energy leaks, because it takes some determination to sit down and really face oneself. It's not kindergarten.
No.
And so the whole structure is like a safe container, so that everybody can go find out what their truth is and communicate it in to another, knowing that everybody has agreed to confidentiality, so everybody can really be open, doesn't have to worry about that any gossiping or
and that role of so it's 5 minutes each, and then we swap over and the other person becomes the passive then, and that idea of just sitting openly and listening without judgment, without having a dialogue in your mind, and without any of that. And I think you said to listen with our whole body, and just that alone, it's not easy. The mind wants to say things, and that is such a great practice just for day-to-day listening, isn't it? Because so much you're not really listening most of the
No,
time. Or,
no.
Yeah.
It's and also in the active inquiry phase, there's no you. So we are not talking about how we experience the other and commenting on the other and playing ping pong. It's not a dialogue. It is an inquiry, and so this is what I experience, that's what I feel. And yes, each partner will have a different impact. I can communicate that, but in terms of my own experience.
So what's the importance of the other in this process then? So that they're just sitting there and the eye contact is maintained throughout the whole 5 minutes. Is there a reason that we're sitting in front of the other in that way?
Well, it's in a way it's a help in many ways. One, what I see the most important one, if I'm sitting, if somebody gives me the instruction, tell me who you are, then it triggers something, like I want to communicate that. In order that I can communicate, I first have to look in and find out what it is in that moment. And then in the communication, I need to bring my experience up to another level of consciousness, so that it's not only like I know how my belly feels, but how do I communicate that? So I'm learning slowly to stay connected with the actual happening in the body, like a sensation in the belly, but I need to make the effort also to communicate it, and in that way I can listen to myself. So I get another chance to see, oh, but that's actually how I say it, it's actually not matching my experience. So then I can sharpen the observation, I can try again to express it till it matches the experience, so that my words are not talking about something and are kind of empty, like a long distance call, but they are arising out of the experience itself. And in this way, because I'm the one who can hear the best if I'm escaping, if I'm telling a lie, if it's slippery there, if I don't want to say it, if I'm holding something back. And then I can see, do I really need to do that? Do I really need to hold it back? Well, it's there. Let's see what happens when I express it. And this way I can help myself to be more of me, because every time I'm notice, oh, I thought that would be like really difficult to say, I would feel really embarrassed, and it's very easy. I can do this. Nobody, I'm not judged, it's okay. And so more, by and by, more acceptance of oneself can arise, and acceptance is one way of love, of loving oneself. So one gets less judgmental and more welcoming, gets more space by expressing and finding out, and kind of crafting the way. I'm creating my way as I'm walking. Yeah, I don't have to have a goal, a target. I'm going this direction. Yeah, it's enough to do this step, and then the next, and the next, and then I see, oh, surprise, surprise, where I'm ending up.
It really blows my mind. Like, it's kind of so simple in its essence, but it's so profound in the practice of it, like I was really like, I don't want even to say my mind blown, but like my whole being exploded. Like it was, such a great tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, and what I like about it too, it's respectful to everybody. So it doesn't matter how much experience you have, how open you are to yourself and others. You can use this technique no matter how much experience you have. And it's a valid tool. You never outgrow it. Yeah? So it's not like many therapy techniques. You do this once, you cannot repeat it, because it's usually issue oriented. But here, the subject or the object of the inquiry is the subject. So, and there is no end to it.
In the week that we just did with Ganga in the Who's In, after each morning session, she would give us a theme to inquire about during the day. For example, what energy am I bringing to my work? And we were to take this inquiry with us into our day and have a look, like when we began work, like what energy we were bringing to it. Another day was to look at our actions and to see if they were self-oriented or other-oriented, like were we doing something for the other or for the self. And another day it was to look at satisfaction, what brings us satisfaction, and again, is that self or other-oriented. And also, I think one that was quite strong for everyone was looking at our needs and how it feels to make a request about a need and how it feels to be asked for a need, and to just really, in those moments in our day, to have a look inside and see what was there. So sort of asking who is in, who am I in those moments, and inquiring in ourselves. And that was great. That was...
I mean, this is like what you've just been in, what we did the last week. That is using this inquiry technique, but the whole thing was within a frame of a very specific situation, like in Osho Afros, which is a place for meditation and meeting, which is like in the summer, open in the summer months, where people from all over the world come, and many want to participate in the place. So there is a program for summer workers, and this place has been offering that. So there is only, we use this technique to start and end the work day with the inquiry. And but in a who is in, they are not tasked to, like pointers to pay attention to, because there it's really the full respect for the process of each one. Everybody can go in their own pace, in their own whatever they need to explore and experience, they can go through. While here there was a certain direction, because there was a so to say a goal in the program to give the summer workers like an extra gift related with meditation, to gain a tool which they then can use in their daily life and have more awareness. Because if I know what brings me satisfaction, it's a very good thing to know. If I know if I'm doing something to please somebody else, or if it's for myself, and what is more satisfying, or if I know my work rhythm, how I throw myself into something or hold myself back, all these aspects, how I relate with power, either being in a position of authority and telling others what to do, being a coordinator, or the other way around, to receive instructions. What's coming up? How is my ego responding to that? What is where I'm more at ease? Working alone or with others? There are many, many aspects which are good to have awareness of, because in daily life that's very good to know, because then I can choose the best work conditions for myself, where I can be at ease, where I'm not putting myself under unnecessary pressure.
Yeah. So Ganga, where were you born? When and where were you born?
I'm born in a little village in Germany in the year 1946. And so I'm 73 now, and feeling younger now than I was feeling when I was 17. With all my wrinkles and all of it. And that has a lot to do with this work.
Yeah.
A lot to do.
Do you mind if I take a quick photo in this moment?
Yeah.
And I'll put that photo with Ganga expressing feeling 17 to go alongside this interview. So you can enjoy this moment with me and Ganga. Wow, okay, so a small village in Germany in 1946. Holy shit, yeah. That's an intense place and time to be born into this world, huh?
Yes. Which, of course, when I was born, I had no awareness of it.
No.
And so I stayed in Germany for the first 24 years. And then after I finished, graduated from university, and I studied psychology. So I have an MA in psychology, and then specialized in clinical psychology. And so I was working in the children and youth psychiatry for some time, and in research projects, because I love learning. So I was interested in research in social psychiatry, but work was actually very, very small section, like being employed somewhere. Didn't happen very often in my life, because straight after my studies I went to a research project in Thailand, and after my marriage broke apart, and I lived there for 2.5 years. That's where for the first time I engaged in some meditation practice.
Okay, so the first time, so as a 24-year-old was your first experience with meditation, in a sense?
Wait a minute, 25.
25 years old, yeah.
And actually much earlier, when I was as a kid, I'm the youngest, all my brothers and sisters are much older, and the parents
how many brothers and sisters do you have?
2 brothers and 1 sister.
Yeah.
And my mom was 46 when I'm born, so she could have been my grandmother.
Yep.
And I often felt lonely and kind of left aside. So my brothers and sisters, they didn't, often had to look after me, and I could feel something, I was a nuisance. So I felt lonely quite often. And then I would go into what I called the id. I would just go into the id. I go sit, close my eyes, and go into the id. And the id was this delicious peach pink, soft space where I just could float, and just there were no problems. It was just so taken care of, held, just delicious. But then when I got to school or something, all this was forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I discovered, hey, that was actually a taste of what the being is, what is also in there.
So really the question that I would ask is, what was your first experience of meditation was then,
Yeah,
in a sense.
without knowing that.
Without knowing. How old would you have been then? Like, how young are we talking when you disappeared into the it?
Oh, I remember this till my 5th year. So when I went to school, I lost it.
Little Ganga.
Yes.
Teeny tiny little Ganga.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then in Thailand there, I went to a monastery there where women also could meditate. And there I was introduced to Vipassana meditation. And that felt very familiar, like I was very easy. And there I had a very strong realization which lasted for quite some time. And then when I came back, I had another year or so in Germany. And then in this work in the children and youth psychiatry, I suffered. So I volunteered to take part in New Age groups, so I could report to the team what this is all about. And because as a clinic for kids, you need to also want to be updated and see what new methods are there. Because they were all experiential, there was nothing like before, it was all medication. And so that this was experiential. But I didn't realize that it's not like going to university and somebody's telling these are the elements of the technique and these are appropriate for these people and blah blah blah. No, you just had to throw yourself into it. You learned by experiencing. So this, and the strange thing was that all the techniques I chose to take part in, they were all run by sannyasis, which were not appearing as sannyasi. Sannyas is the name for disciples of Indian Master Osho. And so it was like, at the time when it happened, I just thought it was strange. And I thought it's only these people who do this. But actually, they were just, like for example, Wilhelm Reich, bioenergetics is not invented by Osho. But many of the people who became sannyasis later, they were trained in alternative methods because they were looking for something else.
They were seekers.
They were seekers, yeah. And I think looking back, because you said an interesting time to be born, for me, if I look back, the really fascinating of that time was there was so much distraughtness and confusion and what actually happened in the Third Reich, and how could it happen, and not understanding, and this desperate search to understand actually how can an enormity like this, how could it happen in a country where there are not monsters. So, and there was a lot of, and it was coinciding with all these discoveries from disciples of Sigmund Freud, like Wilhelm Reich, Fritz Perls. They were all trained in psychoanalysis, but then found what really needs to be looked into is the armor around it, like the physical part. It's not just lying on the couch and freely associate, but to actually get into the body. So most of the techniques invented in this, they were very body oriented and expressive, not to be reasonable, but to really go into the energy and express it. And that was also at the time of the sexual revolution, where it's like to come out of this confinement of very rigid structure, ideas about marriage, about love, about a relationship. And the pill was just invented, which also gave a lot of freedom. And so there was like the spirit of experimenting. Just that which didn't work, let's eliminate all that. So there was a very high spirit to explore. Woodstock happened, all these hippie movement, and against structure, everything but bourgeois and very civilized and restricted, into freedom, exploration, and
And is this the time you visited Pune for the first time?
Well,
All this energy?
Well, it kind of soon happened. When I then was the last one of these, there was one program and in Gestalt therapy, and at the end, the woman.
So at this time, you're still experimenting with these
I was working.
new age techniques to take back to your team in Germany.
Yes. So there was the at the end the announcement in London at Easter, and the workshop I was in Christmas time. There is an intensive, and she looked right at me and said, "And you have to come." And I just nodded and said, "Okay." I had no clue what that was, and I went. And it was my first Satori group I took part in, 10-day group. I had no clue of anything, and it changed my life. So to the extent that I ended up in Pune, I quit my job, I left my boyfriend at the time and went to Pune. That was in
Pune,
75.
In 75. So for those who are listening, we mentioned Osho before, so at the point where we are in 75, Ganga probably had a different name, and now the Ganga that sits in front of me is a sannyasin, which is a follower of Osho, and Osho had an ashram, which actually the word ashram means spiritual community, and that is located in Pune. So after this change that happened in you after your first Satori, you found yourself going to Pune. What drew you there, Ganga?
Well, at the end of this 10-day Satori in London, I was lying on the carpet and just relaxing, and we had been listening to a discourse from Osho, and he just slipped through my ear into my heart. So I just, it was not a decision I had to make. It was
just
clear.
Was.
Yeah. So then I had to get everything together, and then I went to Pune and took sannyas.
Yeah. How old were you when you took sannyas? And taking sannyas
in 75 is to be initiated, and basically, like what it means for me is to make a the promise to myself that I really will be myself, to support myself, to be myself. And in Osho's presence, because that's where I saw him then for the first time, that was experiencing unconditional love for the first time. So I knew I was in the right place. And so I stayed there the whole time.
Yeah, am I correct in the understanding that you stayed there for like 25 years or something? Or no?
Well, there are different phases. So
Right,
from
right.
75 till 81. Osho went 81. He went to the States, to Oregon. So I also went to Oregon. And then when he came back to India in 87 or end of 86, then I went back to also to Pune. And there the structure was different, that I wouldn't live inside. It was then called resort. Inside the resort, but would be there like for 6 months, because that also coincided then that my father had died, and I started to take care of my mother, which I did for the next 10 years. So then I would be 6 months in Pune and 6 months taking care of my mother, yes. But so, like my sannyas life, there has never been a gap. But being in Pune, that changed. And after Osho left the body in 1990, then for a few years I would still come and be there shorter periods of time. But then now I haven't been for some years, because I'm living now in a place where there's also a so-called Buddha field, where there are many people meditating together. And so this attraction to go to Pune and sit together with many people and meditating, I don't need to go there, and the place I'm in is much more quiet, more healthy than polluted Pune. And my connection to Osho has nothing to do with where on the planet I am, because that is an inner connection. So he's with me all the time. Or I'm with him, however you want to call it.
I heard a quote the other day that Osho said himself, that if the master's not there, meaning that after he leaves the body, a lot of people together meditating will do the same job as a master, meaning that the combined energy will take care of the work of a master. And this was really beautiful to hear, actually, because that idea of having a master, somebody to guide you in a sense, if it doesn't seem possible, there's still a possibility for that experience in a way.
It's not dependent
on a person.
No. And with Osho, there is this really fantastic way to also to connect, even for people who have never met him in the body, that as it never happened before, all his spontaneous talks, which are thousands over all these years, they are all recorded and can be listened to. So there is, then it's more a question how open one listens. And not so much, like I'm listening to discourses, I don't know how many times I have listened to, and every time I hear something new. They are incredibly rich. And the more I'm connected with myself, or connected, which is the same as being connected with life, with all, the more this happens, different nuances I can hear, because my understanding is changing, and then the openness has a, like I'm hearing different things, which before they would just pass by because I was not ready for it yet.
As someone explained to me the other day, how to listen to an Osho discourse is to connect with myself and keep that connection as I connect to the listening or the looking and listening, or however I'm taking that information in. And that made a real difference, actually, to how I listen to the discourses.
Yeah. So to really listen with the heart, with the belly, and the ears.
And the feet?
And the feet, yes. As you say that, it's when there was one series called The Search, which we use for the Awareness Intensive, the story of the Zen bull from being lost from ignorance to enlightenment, are the different steps of every seeker to go through, which has been captured in pictures. Some Kokuzan was making the pictures. Some other Zen master wrote it in as a poem, in lyrics, and then another one in commentary. So it's the same story, but depending what kind of mind one has, for some the pictures speak to, for others the poetry, and for others the commentary. So when I was listening to one of the discourses in there, and Osho was saying that the best way to listen is like with the whole body and the soles of your feet. And I almost jumped up because this is what I discovered years before, after having a joint, lying there, listening to music, and the music would come in through the soles of my feet and go through the whole body, including the ears, and it was such a total experience. So I knew what it means to listen with the soles of. Now, as I'm saying this, my soles are tingling.
Ganga, it seems that we are needing to finish.
Okay.
And there was so much more I wanted to ask you and to talk about, but perhaps in next year we could do a part 2 or something like that, so we could finish. Let's see. But and Ganga's website is Awareness Academy with a, what do you call this line in the middle, Ganga?
I don't know.
I don't know what you call it. A little dash. Awareness dash.
It's not a slash.
It's not a slash.
Dash.
It's a
in
dash.
the middle, not on the bottom.
In the middle. So
in the middle.
awareness dash, not slash, academy.com. And this is a connection to Ganga, if you would like to do a satori with her, or it's got all the dates. She travels a lot. This year she's already been in the USA. She's here in Afros in Greece right now. She's going to China in September. She'll be back in Greece, then Croatia, and next year Denmark, Czech Republic, Bulgaria, and mountains. So Ganga is traveling the world, really sharing this who is in and the satori with people, the intensive awareness intensives. Sorry. So Ganga's gonna leave us now with a quote from who is this quote from, Ganga?
Shunryu Suzuki, a wonderful Zen master who died in 1971 and has written this book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which is kind of one of the key books on Zen understanding. And he is just such a delightful being. A student got discouraged because the higher states he experienced always passed. "What's the use?" he asked. Suzuki Roshi laughed and said, "That's right, no use. All these states come and go, but if you continue your practice, you find there's something underneath.